All right, good morning. I'm Robert J. Conti, the third Chief of Police of the Metropolitan Police Department here in Washington, D.C. Just before 6 o'clock a.m., members of the Metropolitan Police Department responded to the 800 block of Crittenden Street, Northwest, for a report of a shooting. Upon our arrival to this location, officers located a female victim who had been shot. Those officers rendered first aid to that victim. Simultaneously, other officers responding to the scene encountered a female who was in a special police officer's uniform, armed with a firearm. That female was acting erratically. That female was engaged by our police officers over the course of a minute or so. During the course of that engagement, the officers asked the person to put down the firearm that she was in possession of. They ordered the person to the ground. Ultimately, the person in this special police officer's uniform was shot by a Metropolitan police officer. That person has now been pronounced deceased. As we are working through this investigations, obviously there are a lot of things that we really have to get to the bottom of. We know at this point that the victim, the female victim who was shot in the arm, she lives in the block. And we know that this special police officer also lived in the same block. The Metropolitan police officers rendered first aid to the special police officer as well. And we are just combing through information right now to see really get to the bottom of this. At the time that the special police officer was encountered by MPD members, the special police officer was on the front porch of another resident who lives in the block, smashing windows to this location, and we're not exactly sure why that was. But again, this is a very fluid investigation that we will be working for the rest of the morning pretty much. We're asking any neighbors who may have witnessed anything or heard anything to please reach out to us, 202-727-9099, or they may text us anonymously at 50411. I want to extend my condolences to the family of everyone that's involved. We're actually dealing with the family of the deceased SPO at this time. And that will end the official statement. I can answer a few questions if you guys have them.
So
Derek?
Three different residences involved in this?
Yes.
So the victim and the woman who died weren't in the same residences? So
No, they lived in different residences but in the same block.
This is among neighbors?
Essentially, yes.
Do you have any more information about what led up to their initial interaction?
No.
Do you know if they were familiar with each other prior to?
It appears that they are familiar with each other, but I'm not exactly sure why, at this point, why the special police officer shot the other neighbor at this point.
Who called the police?
Several people called the police.
Was she shot multiple times or one time, or can you give us any more details about the shooting part?
She was shot at least once. That's all I know right now. And she being, you're talking about the female victim that we initially encountered when we responded? No, the female who was the special police officer, I'm not sure how many times she was shot. Any other questions?
When you say special police officer,
Yeah.
what do you mean by that?
So special police officer is a person who is uniformed, that's commissioned through the city to provide services, security guard essentially. But in this case, she was armed. We have to go through and find out whether or not she's actually a licensed security officer. Right now, like I said, she's in the uniform of a special police officer. One thing that we've noted during the investigation, the name on the security officer uniform is not actually the name of the victim. The name, I'm sorry, not victim, but the name of the deceased person at this point. So we're trying to work through that and really understand why that is. We recently understand that she recently started employment with a special police officer company, with a security company. So we have a little work to do in that space to figure out, what's going on there.
It's been a busy night for you guys.
Yeah.
We had the whole bandana shooting yesterday. We have this here this morning. It's a lot going on. What do you want to tell the people of D.C.?
Well, the Metropolitan Police Department is on it. We're here. I'm here, and our officers are out here facing challenges day in and day out to ensure the citizens of the District of Columbia are safe. Certainly when we have incidences like last night that just don't make sense, you can't make sense out of senselessness. in this situation, another situation where, it's kind of hard to make sense out of senselessness. We know that when firearms are involved, that increases the security risk that we face while we're out here doing our job. But the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department show up every day to do that job. They do it faithfully. As you saw from the collaboration from last night with all the law enforcement officers that were present there, we're here to make sure that the city is safe. Even in this situation, as unfortunate as it is, a lot more people could have been injured as a result of gunfire that happened in this block. I'm thankful that no other residents were injured as a result of that, and I'm also thankful for the quick reaction and response for the Metropolitan Police officers who responded to the scene.
I could ask you one slightly off topic question. There were reports of a 4-year-old who was shot yesterday at the DC too. Do you know anything about that?
No, I'm not familiar with any reports of a 4-year-old being shot.
Two large scenes across the city. How the Van Ness scene? There's a smaller by the Edmund Burke School. You got this scene here. How much longer do you think these two scenes will be here for neighbors who are asking?
Well, for the Edmund Burke scene, we are pretty much cleared up with all of that, with the exception of the focal point for the shooter. In that situation, in this scene here on Crittenden Street, we're going to be here until we do a thorough processing of this scene. Obviously, we have someone who is deceased, so we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we need to do to understand why we are here. It involves a police officer, so certainly a lot of things that we need to do to make sure that again, that all of our bases are covered. So there may be some slight inconvenience, and I apologize to neighbors in advance for that, but we want to make sure that we get everything covered. So we'll be canvassing for video in the blocks that's on the homes that are in the block. We'll be knocking on doors and talking to neighbors this morning. That's very important that we do that. I have the command staff, the commander of the 4th District, who's here as well, Commander Harad, just to check in with the neighbors as well, just kind of let them know what we're going on. I'm sure that this block, who have experienced this incident that involved neighbors, there will be perhaps some trepidation, some feelings about that because of the uncertainty of why we're here. So we certainly want to do all that we can to try to settle some of the fears of the neighbors who live in this block who really don't understand why this happened.
I'm understanding they're finding bullet holes all up and down Connecticut Avenue, locations away from where the first event this shooter was. Is the investigation broadened in that?
Yeah, so the investigation is ongoing. There's still a lot of work that's being done in that case, Derek. We know that over 100 rounds were fired from a long gun, and there are probably going to be a lot of bullet holes that we're going to find. We have to make sure we do a canvass. We want to make sure that we're checking on our neighbors in the event that an errant round went into a unit or something like that we're not aware of. So that investigation will be ongoing for a while.
And were people who live in that corridor to just look and see at some point?
Yeah, check on your neighbors, right? And we want to make sure that we're looking around to just pay attention to our surroundings. That is a large area, and when you talk about a long gun, the velocity on a round from a long gun, it has the capacity to travel for an extended distance, and we want to make sure that we're just doing our due diligence in that space to make sure that everyone is safe. While there may be some property damage, we can do reports for that. But if we have instances where someone is safe who didn't get first aid or something like that, we want to check on them.
Can you talk about the weapons that were used in this scene in particular?
There was it's a semi-automatic firearm.
Would that be what an officer would be issued as a special police officer?
Some are authorized to carry semi-automatic weapons, and some are not. Some special police officers are not licensed to carry firearms. So again, and we've seen that before in some of the instances here in the city. So we want to get to the bottom of that and just find out exactly what we have.
And right now you don't know if it was that issued weapon that was used?
I don't know if that was an issued weapon or not. The weapon is on the scene, but I don't know if it's an issued weapon, and we'll work that through with the company. Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.